Okay, welcome. Welcome to the Whitman Finance Committee. Today is Monday, February 22nd, 2021. It's 7 o'clock. We're broadcasting on the Zoom platform with the help of Whitman Hanson Cable Community Access. The agenda was emailed in advance of the meeting. We only have outstanding meeting minutes from our last meeting last week. Those have not been drafted yet. The reserve fund stands at $37,000. $321.20. Public forum is temporarily suspended due to the COVID pandemic. I would like to take this opportunity. I know we don't do a lot of pomp and circumstance in our finance committee meetings, and we don't usually salute the flag, but I would like to take this opportunity to recognize and take a moment of silence for the grim milestone that we have met here in this country of 500,000 deaths due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So if you would indulge me a moment of silence to just reflect on the people that we lost. Thank you very much. So on new business, we are just, again, we are kind of on hold with respect to the work that we need to do on Article 2 until the Whitman Hanson Regional School District has its budget meeting, which is scheduled for tomorrow. It's scheduled for Wednesday. So perhaps in the following weeks, we can then get back to work on filling in the rest of the Article 2 and getting a budget ready to meet with the Board of Selectmen. So old business, we still have our place setters for our subcommittee reports, Whitman Hanson assessment, non-mandated busing, the audit, annual town meeting, special town meeting warrants, and the joint meeting agenda for the Board of Selectmen meeting that's coming up in March. So we do not have any communications, and thankfully we do have our town administrator, Lincoln Heineman, here tonight to give us some updates as he has for us. Upcoming meetings, we are posted for tomorrow, February 23rd at the Whitman Hanson Regional School District to talk about the non-mandated busing, the presentation. And then we are in all Mondays going forward after that. So I will post for March 1st and March 8th following that. Any questions on the agenda? So welcome everyone. I guess the first thing we could do, Lincoln, if you don't mind, I don't know, Ken didn't indicate that he was not coming tonight, but he did send an email kind of giving a few updates. Did you have an opportunity to sit with him to talk a little bit about the revenue summary or any of the information relative to the budget since our last meeting?
I don't think anything new other than what we've been talking about with revenue last week. I did receive some information later today from our from our principal assessor, Kathleen Keefe, that I need to take a look at with some thoughts on projections for new growth. I haven't had a chance to take a look at that yet. Don't really have too many other updates for the committee, except looking forward to joining you folks at Regional School District tomorrow and learning more about the non-mandated busing issue. But those are largely the updates that I have for you folks.
Okay. And did you hear anything about the venue for that as far as the specific location?
I know it's at the schools. I don't know specifically where. No, I'm sorry.
Okay. John Galvin.
Yeah, it's just was told small lecture hall on the second floor at the high school.
Small lecture hall. So, okay. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Okay, so Ken did forward an email, which I did forward it to the committee. So included, he said he was working on an Excel file with a year-by-year increase and decrease of each department. Did everybody get that? Okay, so that's something we could take a look at. It's the spending over the last 5 years, not including fiscal 21. So he asks if there are any departments you would like to see added. He included all of those that have a specific department head assigned, so he didn't include legal, town hall, maintenance, and committees, et cetera. So he included on the file, but in compiling the figures, he omitted any separate town meeting articles, i.e. capital items that would otherwise inflate their budget. So this is solely Article 2 line items under the heading noted. For ambulance receipts, and these are questions that he followed up, I guess, from last week's meeting. There was a question on ambulance receipts. So he said he found an email receipt from Chief Greno back in April 2020. And based on the projections he received then from the billing company, they gave two factors for a downturn in receipts. One was fewer calls due to residents' concerns about going to the hospital and possibly being infected with COVID. So that seems legitimate as far as why there would be less trips. And two, an increase in telehealth sessions, which more often than not removes the need for an ambulance trip. That said, we aren't as far off this year as we were expecting. So those were the questions related to the ambulance billing that committee members had last week. So, and then as far as the Norfolk Aggie, he doesn't remember the specific question, but he said he thinks it had to do with giving money back. And it appears as though there will be money left over in that line item this year. Last year, we had 13 students attending. This year, our first bill was for only 10 students, 3 graduating seniors, and no incoming freshmen. And then as a follow-up, he said we have 1 senior attending this year. And so assuming no transfers, we're on the hook for 9 students, plus the incoming freshman next year. So he says he doesn't know who contacts the school to check on enrollment for that budget item, but it's worth checking to see if we can perhaps lower the amount we have for the budget. So I guess, Lincoln, that may fall to you. We don't have any liaison for Norfolk Aggie, and I do believe that the information must be sent directly to the town administrator. Has anybody else ever seen a communication from Norfolk Aggie with the assessment? Rosemary?
No, what I do remember last year is that Frank had a large amount of money come back because they overestimated or someone decided to go back, and that we received that about this time of year. So if like they sent back money to us, that's what we were told, but I have never seen papers or documents. No.
Right. And as far as that goes, I do recall as well that we were using the Norfolk Aggie line for line item transfers due to the surplus as well. So, as I
Right, and
recall.
in the past, it always came down to Frank disseminating that information as far as Norfolk Aggie is concerned.
Okay.
And
So,
but I just like to add, we do, I believe we do have a communication from them, and I can provide that information to the committee.
that'd be great.
Not at this moment, but
Right, yeah. We got plenty of time. Excellent. So, with respect to the budget and the revenue summary, Lincoln, do you think you probably want a little more time before we start going over that in detail with the full committee? Would you like to have more time with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, with respect to revenues, I feel pretty comfortable with where we're at. You know, we talked a little bit about some of the tweaks, but I think, you know, I would prefer, frankly, to have a lower estimate as a percent of past years for several revenue areas, just as a conservative budgeting model. But I don't think, and that is something that I'd like to pursue in the future. In other words, the budget, the current revenues are projecting a percent, as this committee knows, a percent of prior year receipts. And I do think that percent from a conservative budgeting perspective, which I always want to pursue, is a little high. That said, that would obviously have a negative impact on the revenue this year. And I don't think, but it is something in future years that I'd like to pursue. is projecting a lesser percentage. But that said, other than the tweaks we talked about last week with possible new growth adjustment, and you know, and the question about the overlay reserve that we spoke about a little bit about last week, I'm comfortable with the revenues as they stand, with the possible exception of those two.
Okay. Does everybody on the committee know where those are on the tabs from Article 2? Okay, so, yeah, I printed out a copy from the most recent one, and basically it kind of looks like that. So, you know, I would say in the next couple of weeks, we have a little time to familiarize ourselves a little bit with the local receipts for the tax rate recap sheet. Also, the current available funds is also a summary on those back pages. And so with that and the information that Ken put together too on that most recent spreadsheet. So this is all information that, you know, we can use as we look to getting back into Article 2 and talking about how we're going to backfill the numbers into that Article 2. Does anybody have any specific questions regarding Article 2?
I had a question about a reevaluation of properties. When are we due for that? I know our property values are much higher than the assessed rates when I'm looking at them in a good percent of the town. Is there a major reevaluation that needs to happen soon? I know we do it is it every 3 years?
It's actually every 5 years now, and I'm not sure where we are in the cycle, but I will find out.
Thank you.
Yep, the law changed from every 3 to every 5 for a major full revaluation. But of course, every year, that folks on this committee may know, but every year there are interim revaluations, but the full revaluation is every 5 now.
Okay,
I believe Kathy said that it's fiscal 22, because in her budget proposal or in her budget meeting, she warned us that next year she would have a larger hit on her because they have to pay for that. So I believe it's fiscal 22 that happens, if I'm correct. I'm sorry,
Okay.
fiscal 23, I'm sorry. Not this coming year, the following year.
Okay, and Kathleen, did you have something?
I just had one quick question, and that is, based on Ken's revised article, like updated Article 2, am I right in reading that right now the deficit is at 658,000?
The
367.
printout I have says 615, 692 available deficit. But if we're using the bottom up method, right now it's 404 to the good. John, is that the same?
I don't know
number?
what you're looking at. That's not what my
Oh,
article
okay.
is. I'm looking at one from February 9th. What is yours?
Yeah, mine is February 9th.
And I
John,
have
do you have
658 and at 658 if we of what's requested, and then that's deficit, and then available is 362 from the you know, from the exercise that we're doing with the level servicing.
Right, he's referring to it as the bottom up method, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, does that answer your question, Kathleen?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right, so again, unless there are further questions on Article 2, I guess we will await the information that comes out of the budget presentation to the school committee from the district on Wednesday. So I guess for the purpose of our meeting today, we did want to, I think we touched a little bit, Lincoln, on what we wanted to talk about for the upcoming joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen. I know you're going to have an opportunity to have regular meetings with the Board of Selectmen now that we're on a different night as well. So most obviously, the budget and the deficit is at the top of the list. I would say 5 or 6 weeks ago, we had an opportunity for the board to go around and bring up specific topics that we would like to cover in that joint meeting. So again, it's a draft agenda. So maybe get a sense from the board if in fact, we want to put together something more formal to have in advance of the meeting so that we can, have a little bit of order to the discussion, I guess.
Yeah, and
Without being all over the map.
if I could, so I'd like to, I have, going to be speaking in the Board of Selectmen meeting tomorrow night about my intentions for what the budget process looks like going forward, and specifically, that meeting and where we'll be at. So I want to have that conversation with the board and get a sense of where they want to go, and then I'll have more information soon,
Okay.
next meeting. So.
Okay. All right, very good. So back to our agenda, we have no meeting minutes from our most recent meeting. As far as subcommittee reports, Buildings, Facilities, Capital Expenditure Committee, I did not hear from Dave today. I don't know that he has anything to present as far as an update from his most recent meeting. I know, Lincoln, you had the opportunity to attend the most
Yeah.
recent meeting as well.
I did. I can provide a brief update. There was a discussion of the current sewer force main project and the primary baseline project, and then two alternates, two additional alternates to that project. So that's a further discussion. Again, I want to have it with the Board of Selectmen at the meeting, probably almost certainly 2 weeks from tomorrow, depending on, they're setting their schedule, but certainly want some input from the Board of Selectmen about, in particular with the base plus the alternates, and what the board would like to see on the town meeting warrant, since they are the the board are the ones, as I'm sure this committee knows, who have a say over what specifically is on the warrant. So that's a further conversation we're going to have with the board there. But,
Okay. And I know part of the discussion in the meeting that you had with the capital committee was in reference to the retained earnings too, and your thought about utilizing some of the retained earnings to offset the cost of the, it's a very expensive project. There's no doubt about it. I think this committee had pretty extensive conversations with the commissioners over the past several years about their ongoing maintenance and the fact that they are pretty adamant about maintaining a certain amount of money in that retained earnings for, as you know, we had two catastrophic events not too distant past. So I think this board, and correct me if I'm wrong, the members of this board have kind of agreed with the position that the money should be retained for the maintenance of this aging infrastructure that we have. So just to keep that in mind, this is a conversation that we've had with them before.
Yeah, and I think it's, I mean, that was just bringing that up as a conversation point. Certainly, again, that's something that I want the Board of Selectmen's input on. I would say that any judicious use of retained earnings, that and while still maintaining a healthy retained earnings balance, will have the effect of reducing what will otherwise be a particularly large, frankly, rate increase to pay for the future debt for this project, and this might ameliorate that. The size of that rate increase, obviously what the rates are is up to the commission, but I do think it's an important conversation to have for the policymaking boards to think about whether or not some use of that retained earnings is wise.
Absolutely. Yep. And just kind of drifting into the strategic planning too, this committee has also had quite a lot of discussions about trying to level out the tax implications, including user fees for the taxpayers, instead of, up, down, up, down. I mean, it's difficult, especially in this environment, for costs to go up and down year to year. So
I certainly share that goal, and that's the endpoint. If the decision is made, to use some of those retained earnings, that would help, again, would help ameliorate those increases a little bit. But again, policy decision that needs some conversation, but certainly share that goal of moderating increases. Yep, absolutely.
Excellent. Anybody else, anything you want to bring up with that? Okay, so like I said, I knew the meeting would be light. As far as the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Assessment, I'm sure we'll be getting some information, or at least a sense of information, from Wednesday's school committee meeting. Non-mandated busing meeting tomorrow. Again, we got to be thankful that we have an opportunity for the district to share some information. Again, I don't know the format. I have really not been given a good idea of what to expect from the meeting. But from what I was understanding from the email, it's more or less going to be an informational meeting, and no deliberations, I guess, were part of their framing the process of how the meeting was going to be conducted. So as far as the audit goes, I think we brought that up enough so that we are hopeful that that is still going to be something that's going to be on the warrant. And the warrants.
Can I ask a question on that?
Go
Sorry.
ahead, Kathleen.
Lincoln, have you had a discussion with the Board of Selectmen on this issue of the forensic audit for the schools?
I have not yet. No. We haven't had a Board of Selectmen meeting since our last meeting, so, well, I'm sure we'll have the conversation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. So that really expires the old business. Oh, go ahead, Rosemary, sorry.
That's right. Did you have a discussion with Hanson's town administrator on that? I know you had mentioned you might want to talk to him.
I've left a message with him. I'm sure we'll connect on it, but no.
Okay. All right, thank you. And so I have no communications. I plan on going to town hall tomorrow to post our March 1st meeting. Is the board, does the board think that we're going to have information to move forward with Article 2 as early as March 1st, or would you prefer not to post? I mean, I hate to squander the opportunity to have a meeting when, May will be here pretty quick, so Kathleen.
I think that we should take advantage of the opportunity to meet right after the school committee's presentation. The presentation is Wednesday. Documents will be available. I still have some question about the fiscal 21 minimum local contribution, what it finally was, and how a regional school handles that. We've never done statutory in the past. John Tuffy has been a regional school superintendent, so he would know what happens when the MLCs change between preliminary and final. But I think there's a shift of $20,000 from Hanson to Whitman. I think we're due $20,000 from Hanson at the end of the day for fiscal 21. And so I would like to plan to meet next Monday to take at least a first stab at the fiscal 22 school budget proposal.
Okay, excellent. All right, so I will, as planned, I have drafted the posting and I do have it, and I will bring it to town hall to have it posted for next Monday, which will be March 1st. Okay, if that exhausts everything I have, unless Lincoln, you have anything that you want to add to the meeting?
No, nothing we've already discussed. We haven't already discussed. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And so until Tuesday, March 1st, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second, and I will go around the board. Kathleen,
Yes.
Rosemary,
Yes.
John Galvin,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
John Noon,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Thank you all.